So I thought I'd do a little piece about money, and I suppose you could call it money and negotiating. To get straight into it, there's different ways to deal with people when it comes to money, but the best way is probably just to be straightforward. But people inevitably, because it's about money, think of all sorts of wheezes or ways that you should behave, which fly in the face of that. Anyway, uh, we were one time we were on holiday. We were away and we were looking for someone to ferry us around this island. It was Jamaica, and there's this one guy had been pointed out to us, organised for us as somebody who could take us around the place. But we come up against this culture that was kind of alien to us, which isn't the negotiating thing. There can be a tendency in places to try and milk the tourist. And anyone that's been on holiday, especially if you go to Spain or quite a lot of places like that, anywhere that's quite touristy, you will notice that you are, to call it targeted isn't too strong a word, I think. There's plenty of decent people in these places, but money is such a thing out there. It's so different to the UK, like Britain, and it's much more like America, but I would say it's there's fewer opportunities on an island like that, so they tend to be more hungry for your cash. So this one guy had taken us around a few places, and it was quite he'd taken us some odd routes, like he'd taken us through the bush, as they call it, which is cross country. It turns out there's some lovely island roads go around the perimeter, pardon me, of Jamaica. And of course, being near the shore, they're quite flat because it flattens out before it hits the water. But the mountainous bit in the middle, he took us through that all the time. And I began to get the feeling, especially after there'd been a slight run-in at a junction with a police officer or a traffic officer or something, that there was some exchange went on, and literally an exchange. And I think maybe his car wasn't insured or taxed or whatever it is they do in Jamaica. I mean, God knows. For all I know, somebody just looks at it, you give them, $50 US, and they say, yeah, carry on. But we got sick of these runs through the bush anyway, and I began to realise that it wasn't because it was for our benefit. It was maybe that he didn't want to be seen by the cops. And the cops tend to inhabit the bits where there's people, a lot of people, like Kingston and Montego Bay and stuff, and would be much more likely to travel themselves on the perimeter road around the island. So it was basically a way of not being seen, I think, in the main, by the legal bodies that might exist. Anyway, so it got to the stage where we'd been out quite a few runs, and I seem to remember Jamaican dollars weren't worth a whole lot. Like, we were negotiating to the tune of 13,000 Jamaican dollars, and in US dollars, I'm making a guess, might have been $70 US or $80 US. I'm on that bit of a guess there, but it was some sensible number, maybe under $100 US. But in Jamaican dollars, that's like 12,000, 14,000 Jamaican dollars, because they're pretty much not worthless, but very low value, so high denominations. So the guy was saying to me, well, he's sitting in his car, and I remember, and it's already, the money was getting a bit, excuse the siren. That's an ambulance, probably. I can hear a big engine, that means it's a fire engine. Yeah. So he was negotiating about this trip we'd done, and it sounded as though it was all right before we went. Then when we come back, he wants something like 14,000 at the top end of what was a sum of money I would pay for this. And the family was inside the house, and so I'm talking to him, and I thought, yeah, I don't really want to pay you more than 12,000 for this, because I was thinking ahead for the next few days and starting to really budget, because it's coming towards the end of what we thought was the holiday. I'll explain why it wasn't in a minute. and he really dug his heels in. So I thought, okay. And I got to the point where I thought it was really quite rude and quite pushy, and I thought, oh, fuck it. And I said, well, I think 12,000 fair, he said. And he's looking at me from his car like that, to the corner of his sunglasses. I said, take the whole 14, I said. There you go, take the whole 14. And that's us, yeah? And I don't think he realised the full significance of what was happening. I'd had enough of being milked, really, so when he refused to give an inch, I got the impression it was a little bit about who's the bigger man and stuff. I thought, well, look, mate, you negotiate, and then we have another few days of going places. Or you could stitch your guns for the last few dollars US or last $1,000 Jamaican, and what will happen is going to happen now. So I said, take the whole 14. He said, yeah. I said, so you happy then? Is that it? He said, yeah, that's what I wanted. And I said, right, goodbye. And I don't think he got the significance. So the next day passes. As far as I was concerned, that was it. You know, he'd pushed it too far. So I explained to my spouse, I said, you know, we won't be using the taxi guy anymore because that's over. So we might get a little taxi down to Montego Bay, back up to the hill here. We're near the hospital somewhere, in a guest house. I said, but we're not going in that taxi again because we're not going to pay the rates. And I suspected this might happen. Having played it tough and played it pretty hard and fast with the amounts that he wanted for these runs, he suddenly came across, I think, a day passed without much happening. And then he might have called or something, but the day after, we'd had this, as I was concerned, the final negotiation, he turns up at the door of the guest house. And he had this slight look of concern. And I was slightly surprised, because as far as I was concerned, it's over. And when I think it's over, it is over. So my spouse said, well, so-and-so's at the door, you know. So what? You know, we're not using taxi anymore. We're not going with him anymore. So I went out and said, yeah, how you doing? He said, yeah, I wondered if you wanted to go. I said, no. When we had that last negotiation, I said, it's too much money. So that was it. I said, you know, we haven't got an endless amount of money. You might think we're the tourists and we're there to be milked, but we haven't got an endless amount of money. And he said, oh, well, I'll negotiate. It'd be better, you know, it'd be all right, honestly. And I said, no, it's done. I said, you know, we got a few more days to go. We'll have a nice, easy time, thanks. So I said, what I don't want is a big argument on the doorstep. So you had your negotiation. You got, I said, what you wanted. The fact that in the end it's not what you really wanted, I said, I wasn't negotiating for fun. And next, I think he came back the next day as well. And then somebody else tried to have a word on his behalf, and so on and so forth. That was it. And we never went to the guy's car again. And another taxi driver who was just ferrying us up and down from we went to this taxi rank in Montego Bay, and they ferried us up the hill, you see, because it's a windy uphill, and of course it does rain sometimes. So this time we were told it's about $3 US or something, and this guy tried to charge me 6 or 7, and but he waited till I get in the car before he did this, and they start saying, oh, we have to go, you know. I said, hang on, you didn't tell me it was going to be $6, and it's just me and a rucksack, you know, and it's only a short distance. I said, no, mate, no. He said, oh, I've lost my place. I said, that's not my fault. You should have told me the price before I got in the car. Left the car, and he's going, hey, yeah. Oh, fuck it, mate. You pushed it out too far. And that was after I'd had this discussion with this other guy, so I wasn't going to give in. So I just walked up the hill. Now, several taxi drivers drove past with no fare in, and so they specifically came out to see what I was doing, because, you know, there weren't that many. It was the start of the season. There weren't that many people then. And what got even worse for Jamaica was that was the year that there was the volcanic eruption in Iceland. So we found ourselves at the end of the period. We were checking that things were all right, and then we found that we were victims of this volcanic eruption, so we couldn't go back because the aircraft weren't coming over. cut a long story short, we went to Thompson's, who were pretty good really, and we said, well, you know, we got this, there's two of them, there's two that sound similar, get mixed up with Thomas Cook and Thompson's. They're both pretty good. But we went back to them at the desk, and me and my spouse decided how we'd play it. So although we left the guest house with suitcases, we knew in advance that there might be a problem. And so we sort of arranged that we could come back to the guest house. Was it? Yeah, it'd still be okay. But we also knew that might not happen, and we thought that they might put us up in good accommodation, because remember, there's nobody visiting now, because no planes can get in. So the tourists that are there are the only tourists they've got. So Thomas Cook or Thompson, I forget which one it was, they put us up in a 4-star hotel. But for the fact that one of our daughters had needed to go back for something that was happening at school, we wouldn't have. We probably wouldn't have rushed back. But as it was, we got nearly a week in a 4-star hotel, and that gave me a shock as well about how things are run abroad with money. So this brings into sharp relief the medical situation. So, you know, I've got a condition for which I require some medication, not an unusual situation when you're in your 40s and 50s perhaps. And the doctor I went to see at this 4-star hotel, I thought this would be a problem, and it was. Cut a long story short, my meds in Britain, I'd been running short just before we went. There's only one place open locally, and cut a long story short, I ended up having to pay for my meds in the UK, which is very unusual, because the guy said he shouldn't really give me any without me seeing a doctor first to write it off, and then surprise, surprise, he was able to give me some as long as I paid him some money. So how that relates to the point of principle, the doctor signing, I don't know, because the doctor didn't sign, I got it, I just had to pay money. Thanks a lot. But even then, he only gave me a little bit of the medication, so I didn't actually have much left at all. So it got to the point where I really had to get some meds, and then what? They were keen to let me see a doctor, but I had to sign something first, so that means you're into $70 or $80 US. And then supposedly I was going to see the doctor, and then I thought, I bet that costs another $100 just to get a prescription. So rather than sign the thing, I said, oh, it's all right. I said, I'll just have to suffer. I said, I'm not gonna be held to ransom for it. I said, oh, I'll go and see if the doctor's available. Suddenly the doctor was available for free. But then for him to write something out and have a proper consultation was $170 or something. And I thought $170 for the sake of some pills that gate back in the UK pharmacist could have given me. I thought, oh. I said, okay, Dom, thanks very much, I'll leave it. And you could see it, I mean, you get milked in these places. So you got to watch. It's not the kind of country that you're used to. It's not the situation you're used to, and you get pretty much targeted. I mean, another event occurred as well during that 4-day period or 5-day period when we were staying in a 4-star hotel at the cost of the flight company or the package tour company. We went out to a place that does crafts and stuff, and there was this guy who was this woman who's selling these towels or something with these patterns on it, and we were negotiating for that. I mean, it's not my choice. They seem to want to do negotiation things. Okay. And I gave a price that I was prepared to pay, and he said, no, it's too little. It's like, look at the quality of workmanship. I thought, God, it's made in Pakistan or somewhere. You know, she acted as though she'd knitted it herself, and somebody makes money out of this, but it's not them that are standing there. Basically, rich people, the smaller the place, the fewer the rich people who are in charge of everything. So you'll find somebody owns the property, somebody else pays them some money to have a spot on it, and somebody else buys all the garbage and hangs it there. But the person you're standing in front of, they probably don't get any money except $2 an hour, if that. They're probably on commission, which is effectively a 0 hours contract. So she started saying she wasn't going to go lower than whatever the price was. I said, okay, fine. I said, you know, of course, that the volcanic eruption means that no more tourists are coming. I said, you realise that when I give you $10 for this thing that you want 12 or $14 for, the volcanic eruption means you won't get. There's not a busload of tourists waiting to come down here. Maybe last year, maybe next year, not this year. You've got Iceland, volcanic eruption, you're toast. I said, so if you want to negotiate, I said, your negotiating position is not very good. But she went to it. Next thing you know, we're wandering around. There's fucking nobody there. We're wandering around, and then a woman actually comes and seeks me out. Now, if there was ever a negotiating position not to have, it's that when you're leaving the place, you decide you're not buying anything, they have to chase you out and try and get you to buy the bloody stuff. Excuse the dog. So, when you're negotiating abroad, it's strange the kind of positions you end up in, and people just think you're going to be a stupid tourist. You're just going to be totally stupid, and you can be milked, and you don't have to be. It's just, most of it's all crap anyway. And certainly if you look for a taxi or something, there are boatloads of them. You don't have to pay over the odds. And you get the prices before you go in. So elsewhere I've talked about the cop in the UK, the policeman who tried to sell me a motorcycle with a problem, and then because I wouldn't pay what he wanted, he said he had to go out for a minute. Then he checked my car over and found the tax on the car was out of date, the road tax, and he tried to use that as leverage on me. And I've explained about the cop and the carburetor. It was a carburetor fault. Excuse my iPad. So, money, yeah, when people get into money, it's a whole different world. I'll do some more real life stories on this when I get the time. But money absolutely changes everything. Thanks for watching, listening.